Welcome into the College Football Smothered and Covered Weekend Feast. My name is Barrett Salee. Really appreciate you guys checking out the show. We are brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all things sports this summer. There'll be golf, Major League Baseball, MMA, whatever. They've got live lines, they've got scores, they've got stats, they've got everything. Go over to Bet Online, use promo code BLEAV, B-L-E-A-V. That's B-L-E-A-V. You'll get 50% off your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. With that, welcome to the Weekend Feast, the best of college football smothered and covered. Everybody's talking about the video game, and EA Sports revealed its toughest places to play. Now, this is not just a regular list. Everybody has lists during list season. These are the actual rankings in the game, and it will matter if you're interested. If you're a gamer, you have to look at this and say, wow, I have legitimate takes, not fake takes, but real takes. Here's that list. Kyle Field, number 1, Bryant Denny, Tiger Stadium, Ohio Stadium, Sanford Stadium at Georgia, Beaver Stadium, Camp Randall, Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, Doak Campbell at Florida State, and Ben Hill Griffith Stadium, the Swamp at Florida. I've got some major problems with this, specifically the absence of Auburn in the top 10. Auburn should be top 5. Anybody who knows, who has been there, they know how tough that place would play. Just ask Nick Saban and Alabama. The kick 6 in 2013. The 2015 game was close for a little while. Jarrett Stidham beats Alabama in 2017. Bo Nix beats Alabama in 2019. Brian Harson's Auburn team takes Alabama to 4 overtimes in 2021. And then, of course, 2023, Alabama needs a 4th and 31 miracle to beat a very undermanned Auburn team. You look at this list. Auburn should be no worse than number 5. I've been to Sanford Stadium. Yeah, it's big. It's not that loud. The open end zone makes things relatively easy and not nearly as difficult as people think that it is. Penn State, flat. Noise gets out. Wisconsin, I don't know what Wisconsin has done to convince people that it's a tough place to play, that it's rowdy and raucous. Sure, jump around is fantastic, but that is just ridiculous. Oklahoma, when it's good, sure. It has not been that good all the time. And then Florida State and the Swamp at Florida, come on. Anybody who's been to those places know that they really aren't that loud. Now, would I put Florida above some of those schools? Yes, the Swamp is an absolutely difficult place to play. The sound rattles off that concrete. Is it better than Auburn? Is it tougher than Auburn? No, it is not. Now, the absence of Tennessee and Neyland Stadium also egregious. Tennessee Stadium, Neyland Stadium goes straight up. Straight up. Sound just rattles around in that place. Plus, if you've ever sat in the stands at Neyland Stadium, you know you better be about 140 pounds because they pack fans in there like sardines. Just ask Alabama how tough that place was a couple years ago. An undermanned Tennessee team has a chance against the best of the best every single game inside Neyland. When that power T gets formed and the Vols come out, you better watch your ass because things are about to get very sketchy. Tennessee not being in the top 10 is an absolute joke. Now, look, I get it. You look at this list, you can't have all SEC teams, right? I understand that because in this list, you got 3 in the top 3, Texas A&M, Alabama, and LSU. You have 4 of the top 5 with Georgia being just behind Ohio State. You know why the SEC is tough? Because the stadiums are brutal, because they can win. The stadium, the fans can win you an extra game or 2. It's just about diversity. If EA Sports were to put 8 SEC teams, 9 SEC teams in this list, everybody else around the country would lose their minds. It's reality, though. It's reality, though. Now, on this graphic, there's a very important aspect of this. In that bottom right corner, rankings are subject to change. Now I'm going to be fascinated with how this works. Because we've seen in other games, you have rankings go up and down, whether it be players or whatever. In baseball, my kid loves MLB The Show. Those players go up and down based on what they're doing seemingly on a weekly basis. Let's just say, for argument's sake, I don't know, the Grove, next to the Grove, Ole Miss, Vaught-Hemingway Stadium becomes a difficult place to play. Ole Miss gets an upset or two en route to a college football playoff berth. Is the Vaught going to jump up in these rankings? It should. So I'm fascinated to see what they do during the season, week by week basis, judging teams based on what they've done at home during the season. Subject to change is a good thing, but leaving out Auburn, leaving out Tennessee is an absolute joke. Joined now by a longtime friend. You know him from the Daily Wire, Crain and Company. He used to have to wake up early in the morning, but now maybe not so early. He is Jake Crain. Jake, what's up, man?
Barrett, what's up? Yeah, man, we had a slot open in the afternoon from 2 to 3:30 and wanted to jump all over it. And now that, we found out my wife's pregnant, I guess I'm going to have to start getting up early again here in a couple months. But now, man, loving the new time slot. It's nice when news can break and then you can talk about it during the day. But now, man, excited. And now, all right, football season. Come on. I know technically it never ends, but it's that time now that we've kind of moved past NHL, College World Series, the NBA Finals, which was a dud. I'm ready for fall camp to get here.
Yeah, Media Day is right around the corner too, which is kind of the unofficial start, but that means we all get to screw around this time in Dallas because, honestly, there's not a whole lot of work that actually gets done at SEC Media Days. It's basically just a bunch of us screwing around and having fun with each other.
It's dudes being dudes, man. Just dudes being dudes. True. Talking about dude stuff.
Are you going to the All-Star game, by the way, in Dallas?
I am not, but I will tell you, Barrett. And I've actually gotten made fun of, by my friends for this, but my wife has never been to a Major League Baseball game.
What?
And yep. And so July 13th, actually, I'm taking her to her first Major League Baseball game. And look, I'm a Braves fan. You know that, Barrett. I'm going to chop on till the death of me and then beyond that. But we actually found some really good tickets for a Reds game. And, living in Nashville,
really?
We're going to drive up to I've never been to Cincinnati. I've never been to that ballpark. So they're going to play the Marlins. And I told her, listen, it's not as much about the teams your first time. It's about the experience. So
yes,
going to go up there and hopefully have a good time and watch some mediocre teams in Major League Baseball play.
Well, if you ever need tickets to the Braves, I'm a season ticket holder, 5 tickets. So I'm always available.
Well, I'm going to be outside your house in 30 minutes. So yes,
you're not there already. That's kind of creepy. No. But we were at Yankees Braves last Friday. That was fun in New York City. So speaking of outside the SEC footprint, before we go full SEC, a guy we like to talk about, of course, on this show is Deion Sanders. And he said this yesterday, that he's a leader of men, not follower of men. He's a father, not a baby daddy. He leads his sons. I don't follow my sons. And he has no interest in leaving Colorado. Very simple question. Do you believe him?
I actually do believe him. Now, would I be shocked if something did develop where he ended up leaving? But my whole point is, like, what is he supposed to say? Like, he's supposed to be like, guys, you got me. It's like that. It's like that Chappelle skit where they're like, "Are you not going to the Middle East just because of oil?" And he's like, "Oil," and then he hits the thing of water and runs away. I think as far as being a leader of men and not a follower of men, and I don't want to follow my sons, I want to lead my sons. Okay, I can say that you were like, "Hey, we need to leave Jackson State. We need to go to Colorado." I get it, but there's only so many avenues that you can answer that. To me, if it was me, I think the best course of action would have been like, listen, I'm not going anywhere. I'm the head coach here. I made a promise to this university, and I don't want to entertain this anymore. We're going through summer workouts. We're getting ready for fall camp. Deion has a way of adding some, icing to the cake, if you want to put it that way. But I would much rather him say that than be like, oh, God, man, great question.
I'm out. Deuces.
Yeah, Can't wait for these guys, for my sons to be gone. I'm going to be out of here, like a fat kid at a Planet Fitness.
I think that he might. You mentioned that his sons might leave, and that gives him wiggle room in that quote, right? Like he was leader of men, leader of his sons. To me, if they go 6-6 this year, that is a miracle to turn that program around from a team that went from 1 win to 3-0 start, and then maybe to a bowl game. I think athletic directors will recognize that he can actually coach. He can actually recruit in this day and age. And the buzz and the visibility is there. So I think that he will if he leads Colorado to a bowl game, which to me would be fat. Can you imagine a Deion Sanders arms race next coaching silly season?
Well, with the changes that we've had and all the craziness in college athletics in general, nothing, at the end of the day would surprise me. And look, when it comes down to analyzing or projecting or predicting what a team's going to do, you obviously got to look at the main components, obviously the roster, the schedule, the depth up front. That's the first thing I look at. If they go 6-6,
they just need 5 guys up front.
Like
let's not even talk about depth yet.
Yeah, no, it's they're still in the shallow end of the pool. But if they go 6-6, it'll be one of the best coaching jobs in college football, in my opinion. I don't think people, just if you look at it from a casual standpoint, I don't think people really understand how bad Colorado was up front on both sides of the ball last year. I don't think people realize how just thin that roster was. And I don't know if they're going to be that much better up front on both sides of the ball. When you look at what they lost in the portal, and they've gained some things in the portal. Jordan Seaton's going to be a really nice player. You never really know with the freshman. It's a big physicality jump from high school to college anyway, let alone on the line of scrimmage. But if they go 6-6, then it'll be one of the best coaching jobs in college football. And I think at that point, after 2 years of work, and this is what, we talk about all the time on Crain and Company, showing me that you can do something in a 2-year cycle as an athletic director or somebody that may be potentially hired by somebody else, that gives me enough burden of evidence or burden of proof that you can do this, as opposed to these situations. And I'll use Mel Tucker at Michigan State as one, where you come in for 1 year, you knock it out of the park with somebody else's players mostly, and then you panic as an AD and throw all the gold in the vault at a guy that you really don't know. Brent Venables is another great example. You go 6-7 your first year. All right. Obviously nothing crazy is going to happen. You go 10-3 your next year. All right, let's go ahead and throw that extension. Let's do a little preemptive strike on if something were to happen, show stability, this, that, and the other. But I'm telling you right now, Barrett, and I don't make predictions or projections until the end of fall camp. I need to know who gets hurt. I need to know who wins what job, who gets arrested for a DUI, whatever. I find starting in week 1, like North Dakota State is a nightmare matchup
opening
for what
Thursday
Colorado
of the
wants
season
to do. Yeah, because here's what North Dakota State's going to do. They don't have all these skill players, right? They're going to come in and they're going to be flashy. They're going to bring down all these big redheaded Siberian cave trolls that they got up front that are roaming the mountains and the forests up there. And they're going to get in 12 personnel, and they're going to run it at your face. They're going to run power. They're going to run counter. They're going to run ISO. And don't forget, now, I don't know if they can stop Colorado on defense. Talking about when North Dakota State's on defense. I don't know, even if they get to Shedeur Sanders.
But it's ball control. If it's ball control offensively.
With the way the rules are now, with this clock not stopping after a first down unless it's under 2 minutes, North Dakota State can sit on that ball and just 3.5, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 3.5, 3, all the way down the field. And if they can keep Colorado, when the field shrinks in the red zone, from scoring touchdowns and make them kick field goals, I'm telling you, Barrett, North Dakota State, big time tough matchup for Colorado. South Dakota State, sneaky matchup for Oklahoma State week 1 as well.
Yes, sir.
So the Dakotas, they got a chance to make some noise early, but right now I don't see 6-6, Barrett, with that. And Nebraska, you got a pissed off Nebraska team. You're not sneaking up on anybody anymore.
No.
Now all that.
And I love Matt Rule. Matt Rule as a coach is tremendous.
The builder. He's Bob the Builder, right? That's what he is. But Colorado last year had the element of surprise, and they would talk all their trash, but people really didn't take them that serious. Well, you started out 4-0, and you pissed a lot of teams off. that you played and the way you went about it. So the whole offseason, they're remembering. If Nebraska can beat them by 70, they will beat them by 70 if they
Yes,
have a
they
chance
will.
to. This ain't no, like DeMarcus Cousins said, this ain't no walk in the park.
No, it's not. And I believe that North Dakota State will beat Colorado. I truly believe North Dakota State.
I took them plus 8, Barrett, yesterday. I almost called my wife and said, I'm going to put my next paycheck on North Dakota State plus 8 because it went up from plus 7.5 to plus 8. I hope it keeps going up. I'm a buy.
Listen, in sync, or was that Backstreet Boys?
Oh,
I'm going to give you some. I'm going to give you some. I'm going to give you some.
That's in sync. That's in sync, Barrett.
Is that? Well, they're all the same. I'm going to give you some dad advice. Don't make reckless investments with a baby on the way.
Oh yeah,
with an emotional wife, with those hormones kicking, not the best idea.
No, I've already put a bunch of money in buckets in the backyard just to keep it there for safekeeping.
Bury it like Randy Quaid in Vegas Vacation. All right, let's get away from the Colorado hype for a second, or for a while, for the rest of the show. How about that? You're buying Auburn? Because to me, I'm looking at Auburn thinking, okay, Hugh Freeze has some weapons, including the Cam show at wide receiver. He's married to Peyton Thorne, I think, a little too much, right? I think that is one of those marriages that it kind of got rocky for a little while last year. Both parties were kind of looking around thinking, is there a better mate somewhere? They come back together. But then I always look at Hugh Freeze and I'm thinking Bo Wallace, Chad Kelly, Malik Willis. It doesn't take a lot for Hugh Freeze to find an effective quarterback and win at a reasonably high level. Do you think he can do it this year?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're talking about buying Auburn, specifically, are we buying above the projected win total, which I think is 7.5?
7.5. Yep.
Last time I saw it,
I think it was 6.5 about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I've been in Cooperstown for a week and a half. I have no idea what's happening in the world right now.
I think to me, the floor is 7-5 for this team, or should be.
The floor.
Wow. Yeah. When you look at, again, because starting off with the schedule, Auburn plays their first 5 games at home.
And Cal is their Power 5
opponent. So you feel like starting off 4-0, and you can make the New Mexico State jokes, all that stuff. You get one hall pass. That was your hall pass. You should start out 4-0. And then you have an Oklahoma team, Barrett, that while I'm big on Brent Venables, is going to be a young quarterback who I think is going to have a good future in Jackson Arnold. His first SEC road game with an offensive line that is suspect. Now, when you look at where Auburn has gotten better, the depth up front on the offensive line and the defensive line, which is the ultimate gap or bridging of the gap, right? That's where you make the difference, right? That makes everything better. Yes, you have Cam Coleman, all right, but you also have Rivaldo Fairweather. You have Robert Lewis from Georgia State. It's because, again, I was a defensive coordinator for 3 years. I'm going to find, who do I have to double? When it's third and passing, who do I have to bracket? Well, everybody's sitting here saying Cam Coleman. I'm telling you, the one who's going to be a problem is Rivaldo Fairweather, right?
Agree.
Auburn's got a good stable of backs. Rivaldo Fairweather is the matchup. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm looking at, he's like that 6 foot, he's like Al Horford, right? You're big enough to play in the post and body a linebacker, right? But you're also quick enough to run by a linebacker. It's a matchup nightmare. I don't have somebody that's really a great matchup to guard him. And he plays in the seam. So when you play in the seam, you threaten me quicker than anybody else. He's a tight end, flex Y, whatever the hell you want to call it. But you're going to probably have to bracket Rivaldo Fairweather on third and passing, okay? Yep. Which means that if you're running 2-man where you keep both the safeties high, right, you're going to play halves with both the safeties. You're going to man everything underneath it, which a lot of people do on 3rd and 6 or more when you know the pass is coming. That means you're going to have to shade somebody else on the other side. Maybe it's Cam Coleman. But now that you have Robert Lewis, now that you have some of these other weapons, you can't really put Auburn into a corner offensively. Then the question becomes, can Peyton Thorne make the throws that he's going to have to make to extend drives and create explosive plays? That's the biggest question. Will there be a jump this year? The reason I have a hard time believing there's going to be a huge jump is because eventually, if you show me who you are enough, I'm going to believe you. Peyton Thorne has played a lot of college football. He has a lot of high-level college football snaps from Michigan State to Auburn. Typically, you don't see that late of a jump. Auburn fans remember Jason Campbell? It typically don't go down like that, right? From your junior, senior year, you have
got
this
beat out by
massive jump.
Daniel Cobb
Got beat out by Daniel Cobb and then come back and play the hero. Now, he had more weapons, than we've sent to Ukraine lately.
Sure.
So, at the end of the day, that's a big deal.
That's a lot of
here's
weapons,
here's where Auburn can make the biggest jump. Auburn's pass rush last year, and I thought Ron Roberts did a much better job than he gets credit for defensively, because Auburn did not have really anybody outside of a couple guys that could rush the passer, right? So you have added depth where guys can go empty the tank. It's like hockey, right? They go for 2 minutes as hard as they can skate, then they get off. Well, Auburn had no depth last year, so guys had to pace themselves. By adding these transfer portal pieces and having some of these young guys like Falk step up, it's going to take some pressure off that young secondary. I would much rather have a really good front seven pass rush and an okay secondary than an elite secondary and an okay pass rush, because you can't cover guys for 6 seconds in this league. So when I look at the schedule, you're probably going to lose at Bama and Georgia. Let's play a game of look each other in the eyes and be honest, right? Chalk those up. If you're able to beat Oklahoma, that's the linchpin of the season.
Yes, it is.
Because then you start 5-0, you get a bye week, then you get to go get your teeth kicked in by Georgia on the road. Which, you know what? At that point, you're 5-1. You're probably ranked. You lost to what could be the number 1 team in the country.
Dude, if you're 5-0 going to that Georgia game,
you're
top 10.
You're top 10. But that's Barrett. That's not a crazy. Listen, everybody's a fan of somebody. Okay, I think if you're not a fan of somebody, you should be federally investigated. But I have sit here and said Auburn's going to go 6-6. I'm going to call it how I see it. I know how the sausage is made, just like you. So it's going to come down to, at Missouri is going to be tough. It's that they're a damn good football team. They're going to win a lot of games. They got a lot of experience and talent coming back. At Kentucky, can you win at Kentucky and handle business at home like you should? If Auburn can do that, if they can win one of at Missouri or
I was going to say
Kentucky,
split those.
If you can split those, I think 9-3 is the ceiling. That's what I think. The floor is 7-5. I think the ceiling is 9-3. So if we're going to go from am I buying Auburn over 6.5? Yes, please put it in my basket. Let's go to self-checkout. If I'm buying anything over 8.5, I'm a little nervous there, which to me, if I'm questioning the floor is 7-5, the ceiling is 9-3, it's probably going to be 8-4, Barrett, which is what Auburn needs to show on the field to keep this progress as they bridge their way to try and catch up to Bama and Georgia and the elites of college football. Because all this recruiting is great. The new facility is great. The momentum.
I've been there, man. It is gorgeous.
It's incredible. All of Auburn is aligned, which rarely happens and makes Auburn dangerous. But once you show that progress on the field, then it all comes together. Then you get on the SpaceX ship and you go do a trip around the moon for a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, 8-4, I think, would be massive progress for you.
Barrett, would you buy 8-4 right now? If I went up to you and said, Barrett, Auburn will. Yeah, I would take 8-4 right now. I definitely.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, and you mentioned Auburn being aligned. I went there. I grew up an Auburn fan. Had season tickets. Worked there. It's never aligned.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very rarely aligned. And honestly, one of the last times was after Jetgate when Tommy Tuberville kept his job, and then they went undefeated. At that point, it was like, oh, well, maybe those idiots that were running the program and funding the program before are actually not as smart as they thought they were.
And Barrett, can I say something too? You know what I find? And listen, fans short for fanatical, right? It's one of the best parts about college football and the SEC specifically. But what I find hilarious is I go back and on social media, I see when Hugh Freeze got the job, because I was one of the few saying Hugh Freeze needs to get the Auburn job. Auburn needs to hire Hugh Freeze.
I was too. I was on that boat too.
You were too.
Yep.
You were too. I remember that. Me and you had conversations about that. I watched so many Auburn fans say, oh no, Auburn can't hire Hugh Freeze. He's an awful human being. And then when he got the job, oh, Auburn, I'm never going to another game. I can't stand this hire. I'm done with Auburn. It's amazing. Those same people, when Auburn gets 5-star Cam Coleman, when Auburn flips to Marcus Riddick, oh, it's freezing in here. oh, walk outside. It's a blizzard. It's freezing in here. Don't think we forgot. Once Auburn gets back to where, let them go 9-3. Those people will be the first one at Toomer's Corner, and that's fine. That's fine. But it just goes to show you, man, the pendulum is wild in this conference. It's wild in college football in general. But don't think we forgot.
Well, let me tell you something about the coaching industry. If everybody got blackballed for what Hugh Freeze did, there's not going to be a lot of coaches.
No, not there's coaches that you think.
Not saying it's okay. Not saying it's okay.
No. Not saying it's okay, but acknowledging reality, right, is not verifying that you're allowed to do it. There are some coaches that people think are squeaky clean, that have never done anything wrong, that are the dirtiest, low-down sleazeballs that you have ever met in your life, but you haven't heard about it yet. So, it goes with the territory. I guess it's like that in every business, Barrett, at the end of the day. But it's funny for me to see now all these people that are like, oh, top 5 class. Oh, man, you better bring the fur coat. You better bring the parka. It's freezing in here. You wanted this man drawn and quartered in the town square when he got the job. So it's funny.
It's true. It is true. It is true. I was going to make a joke about a coach that's no longer in the SEC, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to talk about dirty coaches who are no longer in the SEC. One coach that is now in the SEC is Mike Elko. And look, I know Texas A&M fans are full of hope, right? I didn't want to dampen the mood every single offseason, but it's like, y'all, Jimbo Fisher is not that guy. Jimbo Fisher is not that guy. It's smoke and mirrors. He was a product of a generational quarterback in Jameis Winston, and really he's too stubborn for his own good. And I kept saying it. And last summer, I think Texas A&M fans started to believe me. And obviously, I was right. I'm not patting myself on the back and giving myself a trophy, but I was right. And now they sort of hit the reset button, in my opinion. And mentally, I know that's hard for Texas A&M fans to do, and really any fan, because they want their programs to win. Like you said, fan is short for fanatic. But to me, I think the mood around Texas A&M is that they're okay with a little bit of a rebuilding process because Mike Elko is new to the SEC, only has 2 years of experience, still somewhat wearing diapers as a head coach, and is now stepping into a pizza oven out there. And to me, I think 7-5 for Mike Elko, and I hate to put numbers on it. I just did. So maybe I hate myself for this, but you got a decent quarterback. You got a good wide receiving core. You've got an established defensive coordinator who knows the program, knows the landscape of College Station. I'm buying Texas A&M long-term, but it's going to take a little while to get there.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. Here's what I feel about with Texas A&M. And I'm not talking about schematically, right? I'm talking about culturally and from an identity standpoint. It feels like, and I'm trying to remember, it was Lindsay Lohan in Mean Girls, right? Was she the one in Mean Girls? The main. I know you know the answer to this.
Yes.
Yeah. So you remember when?
Thank you. I'm the one who knows the answer to this.
Yeah. Well, to me, it was Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher, especially at the end, that they were kind of like Lindsay Lohan in Mean Girls when she tried to become part of the popular group, like the Plastics or whatever they were called. And it just didn't.
I admire your expertise on Mean Girls. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, listen. My wife watched it the other night, so the only reason I can remember this fluently. But to me, Texas A&M, and again, I'm not talking schematically, the home of the 12th man, the Junction Boys. You're out there in College Station, Texas. You're not in Dallas. You're not in Austin. Hell, you're not even in Fort Worth. Y'all don't need to be the prima donna, flash and sizzle, just everybody out there just dressing to the nines. You need to be the type of team and the type of mindset that takes you behind the bar. And if you want to throw hands, we can throw hands. If you want to get down and dirty and play physical and be grimy and be nasty, that's great, because that's who we are. We'll put on our
Texas State fighting armadillos in Necessary Roughness. the by God Texas Colts ass.
That's who they need to be. And again, I'm not talking schematically. I'm not saying run the triple option or anything like that. But when Texas A&M, and listen, they haven't won a national championship since 1939, since before we stormed the beaches of Normandy. And I'm not saying that to make fun of them. I'm not saying that to be condescending or mocking. It's not like they have this row of championships, but when they've been at their best, minus a couple years with Johnny Manziel, where they still really didn't win anything except individual trophies, if we're going to be honest. They're at their best when they're physical, when their identity is low-key, right? That kind of quiet arrogance and that toughness. That's why I think Mike Elko is the perfect fit. Not saying you don't want great recruiting classes, right? Not saying you don't want to finish top 10 in recruiting or that you don't need to spend NIL money, but it just seemed like the mindset and the culture of Texas A&M was trying to put Hollywood in the middle of Texas. It's just not going to work. So now that Mike Elko's there, he's a defensive-minded guy. They're going to be physical. They're going to be fundamentally sound. They're going to tackle well. They're going to know how to play with their hands. They're going to play good on special teams because the man did wonders at Duke. Like, let's be honest. And I'm going to tell you this, Barrett. Connor Wegman's an NFL player. And they got some cats
I agree.
walking around that team.
That dude's going to be very high
he's
up
nice.
draft boards.
Notre Dame week 1 is walking into a nightmare. I'm just telling you, they are walking in to a nightmare because guess what you haven't heard really? Anything about Texas A&M. You haven't heard anything this offseason. There hasn't been some tit for tat with Nick Saban. There hasn't been guys getting arrested left and right. Like there's no fashion shows that guys are going to during Fashion Week in Milan.
No dude perfect.
Yeah, no dude. They're over there. They're hitting the sled. They're lifting weights. They're in meetings. They're going to class. They're doing the little things that it takes. And there's no drama and there's no distractions. And Mike Elko knows how to get the most out of each guy because he had to do it at Duke. So do not be shocked, right? And you're playing against a Notre Dame team, okay, that did lose some pieces up front and has a quarterback that played for the guy that's the head coach at Texas A&M, right? He knows his weaknesses. He knows what Riley does well, which is a hell of a lot. Shout out Fairhope. But he knows his weaknesses. So you're going into a team with not huge high expectations into a place that is an absolute nuclear bomb, and they have not lost a game. Everybody's excited, and they're good enough to beat Notre Dame. I'm telling you, let Notre Dame go in there and think, oh, it's Texas A&M. Let's make our jokes. Marcus Freeman won't because he understands it. But Notre Dame is walking into a nightmare week 1. There's a reason A&M is favored. Even though by it's 1 point, there's a reason A&M is favored in that game. I like Mike Elko long term. I don't think 8-4 and even possibly 9-3 is out of the question this year.
I think that's the ceiling, and I can't wait to see it. Last thing, Jake, you and I have been friends for a long time. I've been on your show. You've been on my show. We've hung out plenty of times. It's so awesome to see you grow from the J-Boy show way back when to where you are at Daily Wire. To me, my path in this business has been unique. Your path in this business has been unique. So advice to any kids out there who are watching this and thinking, man, I want to be that guy who is a movie star on Daily Wire that gets to talk sports all day.
Well, first off, I appreciate it, buddy. You know how much love I got for you and how much respect I've got for you. And you are one of the guys, especially early on, that gave me a chance and helped me and was willing to have me on. And, I'm just trying to get like you at the end of the day. But my advice, because again, my path was unique. It almost happened, basically did happen by accident. To be honest with you, I still think I'm in a coma. I think I got hit by an 18-wheeler while I was recruiting right before COVID, and I'll wake up eventually. I hope not. But my advice I would be is like, you hear a bunch today about young people that they're different or they're soft or they're lazy or they don't work hard. And a lot of that is true. And a lot of young people take offense to that. And I understand. But if you're one of the young people that does work hard, that does grind for it, that is willing to do what it takes from a time standpoint and a self-investment standpoint, it's an advantage for you. Yep. Jay-Z said it best. Less is more, man. There's plenty of us. So use the other faults of people that are in your generation or your age gap that may want everything handed to them, that may just want a great job instantly. Use that to your advantage and always be yourself, especially in sports media. Don't, you can take a little bit in coaching. You say all the time, Take a little bit from every coach that you work for. And then when you become, or you get to the place where you want to get, you be yourself and take all those little things and add it up to something that is genuinely you. So I think that would be the best advice in a world full of people that aren't willing to work hard. You make yourself double as important. So keep grinding, even when it's tough. Adversity, it reveals character, it molds character. Don't shy away from it, embrace it. Stuff is great because it's hard. And I think that's something that a lot of people have lost. But I'm just very fortunate. I love doing it, and appreciate being able to hang out and talk with guys like you, Barrett.
And go watch Lady Ballers, because
yeah,
you're for that. Jake, appreciate it. Tell people how they can watch and where they can follow you on socials.
Yeah, it's really easy. If you go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of that stuff, it's Crain and Company, Crain and Company. We talk everything, ton of college football and NFL, if we're going to be honest. We're live each weekday, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Central. We have live calls and a live chat. It's a lot of fun. If you like old school sports shows, I think you'll like this one. We have a good time. I'm the good looking one in the middle that's always right. But no, come hang out with us, Daily Wire 2. We don't really get political, though, other than men and women's sports, which, isn't political. That's just, my brain working at a functional level. But yeah, man, come check us out. It's a good time.
Jake Crain, he's the best in the business. Jake, appreciate it.
Barrett, appreciate you, buddy.
Video game. Let's talk about the video game some more, because we haven't talked enough about the video game. EA Sports released its ranking of the top 10 offenses in the new video game. And some of them are surprising. Some of them are not. One stands out. Number 8, 89th overall, the Colorado Buffaloes. The Colorado Buffaloes. Are you insane? EA Sports, are you insane? Let's take a little bit of a look. And if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, you can see it, but I'll go ahead and read them for the folks listening. Colorado's offense last year: 363.6 yards per game, 82nd in the nation. 5.24 yards per play, 99th. 28.2 points per game, 60th. 51 plays of 20 or more yards, 85th in the nation. 39.08% on third down, 64th in the nation. And yet, they're the Buffaloes, 8th overall in offense. Now, look. We're supposed to get mad about these things. This is why they exist, right? Well, not necessarily. These exist for the video game for actual gameplay purposes, but they're subject to change, which is good. That's important, because once Colorado actually plays real football, I think we'll all see that, it's just Shedeur Sanders, and that's about it, because Travis Hunter's going to probably end up playing defensive back. Unless Colorado figures out how to block, there is absolutely no chance they're going to be top 25, top 30 in total offense. And even that might be generous. This is a Colorado team that is at a massive, massive personnel deficiency. It's all about hype. If you're EA Sports, you're sitting there, I think they're in Maitland, Florida, and you're like, we've done a great job rolling out this game. And I wrote that on Outkick. They've done a great job rolling out this game. And this is another example of it. Because they throw this out there, Colorado, number 8 in terms of offense, and they know it is nothing more than bait. That's okay. Because guess what's going to happen? More people are going to look at this game. They're going to say, you know what? I got to buy that. I got to see what Shedeur Sanders is actually made of, which means more profit for the company. I love that they're doing this, but it's insane that Colorado is the 8th best offense in the nation. Because again, let's look at this. Nothing better than 60th in the nation last year in meaningful offensive numbers. It's hilarious. But let's look at this top 10. What is not in this top 10? Well, there are 2 teams that jump out to me as not in the top 10 that should be. First is Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava, Josh Heupel. That is a dynamic offense. The system is the system. It's going to work. I don't care if you think Nico is maybe less than what people are making him out to be. The offense still clicks. The numbers will still be there. But more importantly, where's Ole Miss? Did I miss the part where Ole Miss has Jackson Dart, Trey Walker, Ulysses Bentley III? Did I miss this part? Juice Wells? Like what? Lane Kiffin? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? We're not going to put Ole Miss in a list of top 10 offenses. If you're starting with the best offenses, Ole Miss has to be in there. And certainly over Colorado and over Clemson. I would say over Miami as well. Maybe even LSU. The Rebels aren't getting any respect. They're not getting any respect this year. Clearly from video game makers. They're not getting respect from a lot of you out there who think Lane Kiffin is all sizzle, no steak. It's a really good football team. But if you're talking about the video game specifically, shouldn't the starting out point be the teams and the offenses and the defenses that were actually good that are coming back? Look, I'm not one to say, hey, to be the man, you got to beat the man, whatever. No, that's not how this works, especially in an age with roster movement. But you look at Ole Miss, the roster movement actually helps them. I don't care about Quinshon Judkins. The roster movement actually helps them because they don't have a lot of it. So they should start out being a top 10 offense. And if things don't work out, then yeah, move them down. Seems like the video game designers maybe forgot that a little bit. But look at this video, man. The Gator head, Penn State, the whiteout, all this stuff is going to be fantastic. Can't wait to play this game. Especially if I get to build Colorado's offense up. Because if they're 8th right now, let me tell you what's going to happen when they can block. Joined now by a good friend and actually my colleague, I guess, over at Outkick. You know him at Outkick. You also know him from the Trey Wallace podcast, powered by Outkick, Mr. Trey Wallace. What's up, dude?
Man, I'm good. I think I'm still trying to catch up on sleep from Omaha. I was just, man, after that title game and you know how it is, man, you're trying to get stories up and whatnot. And I think I fell asleep. I finished my last story at 3. I think I fell asleep around 4. Then I had to be up at 6 for a flight. So and then I had the 5-hour delay in Chicago because of weather.
Of course.
Like usual. Yeah. So.
Of course. And nothing happened the day after the College World Series ended. No,
right.
nothing.
No, it was dead, right?
There wasn't a Tommy Tuberville Pine Box incident or anything
Which
like
is
that.
just amazing. I can't wait to talk about it. Everything that's gone into this is just amazing. So, no, everything's going good, and we're getting ready for, hell, in 3 weeks we'll have media days starting up, and it never stops.
It doesn't. And before we talk about football, look, I Jim Schlossnagle, I'm one of those people that say, there's no good answer to, hey, are you going to go take job X?
Right.
But that was a really bad answer, saying A&M was he took A&M to be his last job. That is a terrible way to answer that question.
Yeah, and I think, and I give a lot of credit to Robert Zane from Texags. We both know Billy Lucci for asking the question. I think that if there were probably more national media members inside the room, maybe the question gets brought up a little bit earlier. But they were all all on the field, with Vitello and the crew, whatever. So credit to him for the question. And then, the fact that, and it calls him out and selfish and whatnot. And he goes on this rant that I love Texas A&M and I left my family to take this job. No, your family stayed back where they could finish some school and stuff like that before you took it. So I got pissed off because he used his family as a shield for the answer.
Exactly.
That's where I got pissed. I was, okay. And then he wants to, and then he says, write that. And then he walks over to the reporter and says, I'm never talking to you again. And it's like, dude, you're a 55-year-old, 56-year-old man, and you're acting like a petulant child because you got called out and Texas A&M officials knew that night that you were going to be leaving. And it's just so, and everything that has gone on since then, I spoke with a couple of coaches around the country, a few in the SEC, and they all told me they knew something was up before the SEC tournament that he was leaving. And so the fact that, Barrett, we got from SEC tournament, which was right around spring meetings of getting my days, but a month and a half ago, pretty much a month and a half ago. And the fact that we got to Monday night and all of this transpires and you get into Tuesday, it's like it was the most well-hidden secret I think that Texas was doing, in the fact that A&M at the same time, I'm sure they were going back and forth with numbers. I know they were with numbers, but the fact that he just and then he gets up on that press conference in Austin and says, I wish I had time to speak with the team and whatnot. Brother man, you had a 2-hour flight from Omaha. You had post game back at the hotel because they didn't fly out to the next day. And by the way, you walked into the facility with a crowd of people clapping you and cheering you on. You're signing autographs.
Had plenty of time.
Right, dude, you had the time. So I think a lot of this is we see this a lot, okay, in college sports. Like, coach is going to take another job and, whatever. The way he handled it was horrible. Makes him look like an idiot. No offense. Makes him look like an idiot. Makes him look selfish. And I think at the end of the day, also, you're going to see some players from A&M that have already entered the portal. They're going to follow him to Texas. And according to a lot of folks I've spoken with, there's potential that some of those players maybe knew what was going on a little bit ago. And that's why, they're heading over to. Oh, and by the way, the transfer portal stuff, I was told that the guys that he was recruiting to Texas A&M for the transfer portal, they landed one player from Penn. I think it was 2 players, whatnot. But I was told there's a reason why they hadn't set up residency yet in College Station, because the move was coming.
What a mess. Now, in Schlossnagel's defense, he told Zane that he's not going to talk to him again because he's not going to be the head coach at Texas A&M. Right. 3D Chet, 4D chess.
And shout out to Olin Buchanan, who drove over yesterday and got into the press conference and asked him the question. So it's like, okay, good. We have not heard the end of this. There's going to be more stuff that's coming out. Hopefully I write something today that's going to that whenever we're recording this
teaser.
Yeah. So this is unfortunately there's a lot of mess that goes into this. So this is not done by any chance. And just makes, to put a cap on it, it just makes this Texas A&M rivalry. We thought football was going to be wild. I promise you I will be at the baseball series next season when that goes down. So
there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Coaching
Olin
season's
Buchanan,
crazy.
Star of Varsity Blues, Olin Buchanan. Although he doesn't like me very much. So
it happens. Whatever. It's what it is, right?
Yeah. Well, apparently Texas A&M media didn't like people telling them that Jimbo Fisher sucks. I don't know. Maybe he actually does suck.
I don't know who could have called that after the first year.
Right, exactly. Texas A&M lost to Tennessee in the baseball national championship game. We're going to talk about Tennessee football. Nico Iamaleava. Yeah. I think that it's one of these conversations where, okay, he's getting all this hype. Is he Joe Milton? Because but some people fell into that trap this last offseason. Or is he Hendon Hooker, a guy who did not win a job twice?
Right.
But then did win the job from Joe Milton after Joe Milton lost it for a second time. I'm of the belief that Nico is more Hendon Hooker than he is Joe Milton, because I think the upside of his arm is way higher than it was for Joe Milton, who literally didn't have a changeup, didn't have a curveball. He could throw it out of the stadium. Good for him. But I think Nico's a little bit more polished.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that what you're going to see is kind of a mixture of both. I think you're going to see Nico's got a hell of an arm, yes. And I'm not saying Hendon didn't either. We all saw passes that Hendon made. But you're going to see more quick release out of Nico compared to both of them as well. And I think running ability, the kid's got wheels like Hendon, and I think that's going to pay off. Now, with his frame, you got to be careful.
Yes, you do.
Because, he might be 215 soaking wet, but he's so tall. So we'll see what they do when it comes to RPOs and whatnot. But yes, I think that in my opinion, and looking around the country at different quarterbacks and trying to put them up against, I'm trying to compare Dylan Gabriel to what Bo Nix is going to be. You know what I mean? Like at that school. So I look at Tennessee, and I think Nico has that opportunity, and it was really good for him to get time last year in the bowl game, taking reps with the twos whenever he could, because the twos becomes the ones, this season. And so I think that they have a pretty high ceiling when it comes to quarterback. I'm not saying they're going to win some national championship or the SEC, but I do think you're in a lot better spot when it comes to the quarterback position this year than you were last year with Joe Milton. And I understand, Barrett, why people were excited for Joe, because they thought,
I don't. I never did.
Well, I know. I think it was not because of tangibles. I think it was because he had spent 3 years in the system.
Sure.
That maybe things would have gone a little bit different because of his time and whatnot. The passing, he reminded me of Ben Joyce, for Tennessee, throwing 102 miles per hour, every
Solid
time he could. So to answer your question, I think that we're getting a little bit of mixture of both of these guys, and I think that's going to pay off. Josh Heupel knows exactly what he wants out of this quarterback and how they're going to play it this year. And the kid also, by the way, not a kid anymore. He's been in the system long enough now. He knows that playbook, and I think that's key as well.
Plus, the playbook for Josh Heupel, very, very quarterback friendly. Not to say it's easy, but very quarterback friendly. And so
spread out, go 4 wide, and
run. Right. Throw and run. That's very complicated football these days. So I think there's these ideas that he's a dark horse Heisman contender, and then everyone goes straight to Joe Milton. It's like, no, look, he's on a dynamic offense. He's going to put up video game numbers, right, and he's going to be on a team that's 9-3, 10-2. And to me,
run the playoffs, like making a run for that 12th seed.
Well, and that's what it was 2 years ago too. I think people forget, like, they had easily made the 14 playoff, even without Hendon,
right,
in the last couple of games. So to me, I think that for Tennessee, and this is going to be as an overarching question. We saw Tennessee win the national baseball championship in baseball. We know what their basketball team is capable of. Josh Heupel has the football team back, not necessarily what it was, 20, 25 years ago, but they're consistently winning. Is Tennessee's athletic department finally stable? And how could it be considered one of the most successful athletic departments in the country at this point?
I think it's top 5. I think it's
so crazy thinking about that. Like,
overall,
it is insane. Right. But I think you're right. It's just crazy to say that.
And it's wild to think where they were before Danny White stepped foot on campus. That was 3 years ago, guys. Just 3 years ago. It takes a lot to turn around an athletic department. And I think that, okay, you already had Barnes in place. You had Vitello in place when he got here. I could go off and name softball, Olympic sports, and all that stuff where they're flourishing as well, by the way. And then you bring in Josh, and it's like everything is starting to come together at Tennessee. And it's because, and I just continue to go back to where they were and the deficit they had. They didn't have any money in the reserve. They were dead broke. They
had no football players after Pruitt.
Right. They couldn't get a damn loan from Regions Bank if they had tried to 3 years ago. And now
they couldn't even get gas from Pilot Flying J. It was that bad.
Exactly. So now you look at it, Barrett, and, Tony Vitello and the baseball team winning a national championship, it takes it to that next step. And then you've got basketball and what they did last year. And, and I'll just say, like the NBA draft, I don't follow the NBA, but for them to get Dalton Connect, in the first round and go to the Lakers, like, you're building up things. And I think where they are right now is, and I talked to Danny White post-game on the field in Omaha, and I said, okay, like, this is the next step, and you guys building an athletic department that is, compete with everybody in the country. And he says, no, we're already past that. Like, we're going up that hill. We are right. And the amount of money that they're raising, Barrett, as well, it's astonishing to me to see it. And that's why I think, with everything going on in college athletics and revenue sharing and athletic departments having to cut budgets, you both know that's coming. I think Tennessee's done a good enough job in raising money, selling season tickets, I mean, dude, they got a 7,000 person wait list to get baseball tickets, and you're building this new stadium. It's like everything is coming together at Tennessee. When 3 years ago, man, you would have just thought this program is going to be in the dumpster for a decade. So I give credit to everybody at that university for turning this thing around. And to be honest with you, it wouldn't have started without Donnie Plowman, the chancellor, Randy Boyd, the president, and then now Danny White. So it goes further than football, but I look at football and say, okay, they are not slowing down on renovations to Neyland Stadium. They're going to turn that into it was already cool. Now it's going to be beautiful and cool at the same time.
It never beautiful. It's been cool.
It's been cool.
You walk around Neyland Stadium, you're like, oh, this place is kind of dingy.
You get around the backside and you're like, man, those classrooms have been there for 80 years.
And you don't want to go in there because you don't know what's living in there.
No. So long answer short, they've really turned it around, and you're starting to see them with other big time programs again in college athletics. And this is without a national championship in football, without a national championship in college basketball. So the way that they're doing it is impressing me.
They need to get that Battle of Bristol back. Just saying.
Yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of that.
I know fans couldn't see it, and I know fans were pissed off, but it looked awesome.
Right. Just look up at the dang board up top. That's why they put it in. I mean, it was.
Well, that's what fans do anyway, right?
If what do you think they're doing in Jerry World? They're not watching.
Yeah, if you're at the other end zone, like, you're not watching the game. You can't see what the hell's going on. So
why do you think Auburn put in that big ass video board?
Exactly. and it's fantastic.
Right.
It's
It's
awesome.
beautiful. So, hell, Alabama put 3 different boards inside the stadium. So yeah, you know where I'm going with that one. It is.
Need to have that back though. Need to have that back. It was cool. It was very cool. All right, let's go across the country.
Yeah.
Because USC, I've been of the belief for the last couple of years now, I guess year and a half, that Lincoln is a fraud, that Lincoln Riley is all sizzle, no steak, that what we saw at Oklahoma when he was there, being able to get to the playoff, is the ceiling for him, that he doesn't care about defense. And that's not going to change. Even if you make all of these changes from a staff standpoint, you get rid of Grinch, you hire D'Anton Lynn, it's still a philosophical problem.
Yeah. And
going into the Big Ten, you couldn't ask for a worse time for USC football. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think you're right. And I go back to the fact that, Lincoln didn't want to fire Alex Grinch. He was
not at all.
He was ready to go to the mats for Alex Grinch.
It's like that soccer movie, Kicking and Screaming. I mean, it was bad.
Jacked up on cappuccino and coffee and didn't want to do anything. Like he that told me a lot of things, that he didn't want to adapt, but he was forced to by the athletic department saying, hey, bro, like, we brought you here. We're paying you. We're going to make decisions. You got to do something different on defense here. And I think that's going to be one of the things that holds them up. It's like, okay, maybe you can score 40 points a game. That's cool. But if your defense is giving up 50, what's the difference here? And I think overall, Lincoln Riley, he's got to prove something to me, man, because the talent that they had on offense last year and the way that they came up short, it's not – I'm not going to put all the blame on Caleb Williams for last year.
I wouldn't, but I mean, there was no reason to.
Right. And some of the play calling was weird to me, and how they were running the offense, and I just think overall, I think folks thought, okay, here comes this guy from Oklahoma, big swagger, leaves him in the middle of the night, coming out to LA. He's an LA guy now. I think that they thought he was going to be the immediate savior of the Trojans football program. And it turns out you get stuff like we saw last year, and I even go back to a game that I was at when USC visited Colorado in playing, Dion and Shador, and the fact that they were up, but then it was at defense again, Shador Sanders and them come back and they make it a game, coming down pretty much to the final possession in the last minute and a half. And that's when I was like, okay, I don't know if this team has the ability to put the knife into the chest. And so, right. And so I look at them right now, and if you ask me, it's like, okay, is USC going to make the playoffs? Well, No, because you look at the Big Ten and who they have to go up against next year in those defenses, and even with offenses. Okay, you got to play around with Michigan and Ohio State. By the way, Oregon's going to be right there with Dan Lanning.
Yep, they're going to be
Jed
awesome.
Fish with Washington. I'm just saying, I think rude awakening maybe is the wrong word, but I don't think they're going to roll into the Big Ten and all of a sudden just have success. I think it's going to be a rough sledding for them.
I agree. All right, before we let you out of here, we're going to do rapid fire. You have to answer these. Actually, I'm not going to have them questions. They're going to be teams or coaches or players. Okay.
All right.
5 words or less.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Deion Sanders.
Oh, man. Good for the school.
That's it. You can't go any further. That's it.
Good for the school, but leaving after next year. Okay,
that's more than 5 words. That's more than 5
okay.
words.
Good.
Penn
good
State.
Leave it at that. Good for the school. He's making them a lot of money. That's it.
All right, Penn State.
Underachieving. Better win title.
There you go. Florida. Just laugh. That's it.
Real estate agent.
Oh, I love that. All right, last one.
I could have come back and said Jaden Rashada lawsuit, but I held off.
That's good too. That one's good too. Yeah, I like that one a lot. All right, last one.
Yeah.
Dabo Swinney.
Resurrection is coming.
Yes, I agree. Love it. I love it. Trey, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, man. Follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Trey Wallace _ Follow all the work at Outkick.com, where you follow Barrett Sallee as well.
Correct.
And yeah, man, we're pumping it out, and it's a lot of fun and getting ready for the unofficial start of football season coming up soon.
That'll wrap it up for this edition of the Weekend Feast of College Football Smothered and Covered. Of course, we are brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. Use promo code BELIEVE. You'll get all kinds of goodies. BLEAV. Until Monday, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.